Hello, welcome to another episode of Rob, Ryan, Red, the Wrexham podcast brought to you with Red 10 People Development. Well, we were mauled by the Tigers. Let's hope we're not stung by the Hornets as well. On today's show, we'll look back at Hull City, take a look at fresh investment in Wrexham, have a reaction to the FA Cup draw, and preview this weekend's match against Watford as well. All that and more on today's show.
Rob, Ryan, Red.
Well, Nath, we were on the highway to Hull. We survived. Wrexham's unbeaten run didn't. How are you feeling today? It's a bit of an interesting mood, isn't it? Because feels like every stat at the moment can be twisted one way or another. Before we get onto the football, Hull have won the Hospitality Award for away fans, I think, across the whole EFL. What did you make of your trip to Humberside?
Yeah, we had a good day. I thought it was a nice touch. They had a poster in the away end that said "Welcome to the Town End." Thought it was a really sort of nice touch. And you and I were chatting to Rob, the photographer, before. I know you got some pictures of that. So if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you will do. I mean, a lot of people buying the food, a lot of people buying the drinks. I'm sure Hull did decent, had a decent return from the away end, and yeah, it was what it was. We never really got going from minute 1 to minute 95, and I don't know. I felt a bit like when we came out of Stoke, I kind of didn't feel too angry or upset because we never got going. So there was no hope that they could steal away from me. You know, there was no hope from the very beginning to the very end. So I feel all right. And I said to you in the car back that the way I look at the Championship, 2 weeks ago, everyone was saying Coventry, they're going to run away with it. Maybe ourselves were even saying that as well. Like, they're 10 points clear. They're gone. Don't worry about the rest. Coventry are now only 5 points ahead, stuttering a little bit. Hull are now back into the playoffs. The night before, QPR were in the playoffs. We're now at 14th or something. In the Championship, you're only ever one good week away from ascending massively. But Swansea have had 2 clean sheets in a row after conceding the most goals in November. And suddenly they're, on a steep upward curve before we play them. So you're one good week away. That's probably why I'm quite relaxed on Thursday morning.
I absolutely agree with you, mate. And again, that's what we've had to temper the table with in recent weeks. It's still, and I say this every week, it's become a cliche, but it's so easy to sensationalise a league position because you're one win off the playoffs, one win off a relegation dogfight again. So nothing really has changed too much even after defeat to Hull. Do you know what I mean? Wrexham 14th, still 4 points off the playoffs, who are now Hull. And Hull deserved to win on Wednesday night, but I also didn't think they were that great, so I'm not actually too concerned. The last week we've played 5th away and 6th away, and I've actually not thought we've been completely off it. We could easily have got something from Hull, even though they deserved to win by the end, so I'm actually not too bothered. I know some people maybe expect, well, you're podcasters, you need to be irate, you need to be sensationalist. Absolutely fine right now. And again, I've been speaking a lot lately to fans who don't support Wrexham, and they all just want you to bite. They want you to get really, just aggrieved and angry at what's happening sometimes. But no result in the Championship can harm me. I've seen us get smashed at home by Telford, watched us lose to North Ferriby, a village you drive through on the way to Hull at Wembley. Losing 2-0 on the way to Hull, I'm not that bothered, which I know makes a bad content because start of the season, I just wanted to survive. We're going to survive. We'll finish mid-table to upper half. That's absolutely fine as of now. Go on, Dave.
As I say, I got a call off one of my bosses at work who is a Hull fan. And, he said himself, he is a bad loser, but he's an even worse winner. And so he called me just talking about, and he said, look, he was watching it with his friend and they couldn't believe how bad Wrexham were. They said, Wrexham are going to have no chance, no hope of doing anything this season. I would say I was trying to think if we played worse than that this season. Definitely not away from home. I don't think there's been a performance on the road where we've played worse than that. At home, I don't know. I think it was a really leggy performance that was devoid of ideas and any real quality. I thought Sheaf was particularly, off the pace. The wing backs, what have we said all season long? The wing backs, they're not good enough. And they were nowhere near good enough on Wednesday night. And ultimately, the Kiefer or bust approach, bust. So he misses a penalty and he misses from 7 yards out. And some other days they go in and we're cheering and we're saying Kiefer's on track for the golden boot. They don't go in and them's the breaks. But that, I think, was good evidence of what we've been saying about why you need to invest in January if you are to bridge the gap. We got a message, or we got tagged in a tweet, Rich, from, I think it's James Hughes, who said, while some at Rob Ryan Red and Fearless in Devotion are getting excited about a playoff push, I think people need a little bit of a reality check. We might have been 9 games unbeaten, but we've only won 6 in 20 and only 6 teams have won less. I can only think of Millwall and Bristol City we've won by more than 1 goal. Wingbacks are miles off championship quality. Kabore and Kakachi are decent enough, but Jimmy, Barney and Longman miles off it. We look toothless in attack. Arthur playing out of his skin in recent weeks has probably flattered us massively. Don't wholly disagree with a lot of that, but I will say that I'm not deviating off the fact that I still think Wrexham can get the playoffs. I said, was it a month ago? I don't think this championship is that strong. I don't think it's a very strong league. I think the quality is as low as it's been for a while, and that gives you a chance. And no doubt we'll respond against Watford and we'll probably shoot up the table a few places and it'll look quite rosy again, and then you might lose the following week and it might not. All we've got to do, I think, is just stay close, stay in the mix, stay within touching distance, and we'll be all right.
Absolutely, and I'd almost look at the table and say, well, that kind of is the positive for me. It's true. Then we've said all season that look, there's still huge room for improvement here, and we didn't actually learn much from Hull either, because, like you said, Okonkwo is very good. Wing backs need to improve. Midfield's still a bit of a mismatch. And if Kiefer scores, you get something from a game. And we could easily, I still think, Kiefer scores a pen or scores from 7 yards out. We could easily talk about another 1-1 draw away from home this morning. We're saying, we're not losing. We're still really hard to beat. 10 unbeaten. Would have drawn half our games in the championship at that stage. So nothing has really changed for me. And like you said, 4 points away. I find that remarkable because it feels like this team is still learning as we go along. The first couple of months of the season were poor. We still have obvious flaws as a team. We're still only 4 points away. So my argument is, well, if you sort out a few of these issues, you could quite comfortably get playoffs. It only takes 2-3 wins and you could be the team who's firmly sort of fourth or third in this table. So there's a lot of room and a lot of scope to go. And I'm not going to suddenly say, park in out, because Parky was suspended for the whole game. But
yeah,
nothing's really changed for me because of that whole match. No.
I think it best encapsulated by the fact that Dom Hyam did not play well. I mean, He is human after all. He gave up. Well, I mean, it was a handball, wasn't it, on Dom Hyam? Let's be real, mate. I was getting frantic texts from friends of mine who support Hull, and they were fuming at 1-0 that this penalty wasn't given on Dom Hyam. It's a clear handball. That's fine. He doesn't cover himself in glory for the first goal, not well protected by McLean, and I think that was just proof. He's human. They're all human. Hyam is great, has been great, wasn't great on Wednesday night. Like I say, I think afterwards when Parky gave his kind of post-match interview, he kind of alluded to, I need to go back and reflect on my own decisions. And to me, that was probably suggesting the team he picked. So he went unbeaten from the team that drew at Preston. And the way, my interpretation of that interview was, I need to look at whether I should have changed up this team. Should I have put Matty James in? Should I have put Callum Doyle in from the start? Came on at half-time.
Really
should
good
I have
Doyle
put?
well.
Yeah, we'll get onto Doyle in a second. But should we have put Longman in? Should I have put Windass in? Should I have put O'Brien back in? I'm struggling to grasp the lack of minutes for O'Brien now, even after some of his kind of misses early in the season. So I think he's probably reflecting on that. And dare I say, I think we might see a good handful of changes for Saturday.
Absolutely, it's needed. And again, there's been this perverse thing where the last few weeks, you can't drop Dan Scar, you can't drop McLean because they played so well, but you've almost kind of been waiting for them to make a mistake so that they will be dropped, which is a real perverse sort of paradox at the moment. And, I'm not saying they shouldn't have started at Hull, but now I think we've got that excuse where the weekend, I expect it to be Doyle, Hyam and Max, maybe even have changes at wing back. And again, talking about the context of why I still think we can get playoffs is because we keep on saying, well, when Kabore's back, and of course, Kabore's been called up for Burkina Faso for their AFCON, so suggestion is he will be fit enough for them to take part, and then back maybe early January for us, depending on how far they go into the tournament. And we talk about Kakache, and we worked out in the car on the drive back from Hull last night. It was a riveting journey listening to Christmas songs as well, I must say. That Kakache started a quarter of matches for us in the Championship this season, 5 starts out of 20. I mean, he didn't arrive with this injury record, and it can just be a quirk. It might just be a really unfortunate season or a spell that hopefully puts behind him at some point. But we to carry on going about that point about how important we think the wing backs are in this system at this level, we've kind of been playing with a hand tied behind our back, haven't we? Because we've just not seen 2 of your most important players playing regularly. So maybe that's the position that needs addressing the most in January. I know we go on about transfers quite a lot. Let's talk some positives then, Nath, because we mentioned Doyle there, and he was really good when he came on against, was it the Bristol game or Blackburn? Was it Blackburn game that he came on? Good. I can't recall. There was a home game recently.
Yes, one of the recent home games.
Maybe even
my mind is so my mind is so fixed on Hull right now that it's all a blur to me. But yeah, I think Doyle is just more progressive, right? Hyam is very solid normally at left centre back, and Scar is solid as a central centre back. But in a back three, I've watched so much back three football for my job and for pleasure with Wrexham, and you need centre backs who can progress the ball, who can put balls into forward areas. One of the things I was lamenting most on Wednesday was the amount of people making sideways and backwards passes. It's all safe. You've got to have people that can fizz the ball into Broadhead. You've got to get people on the ball that can get forward. And I felt like Dobson, Thomason, Sheaf, Hyam, Scott, there were a lot of McLean, Barney to a degree. There was a lot of backwards, sideways passing, and Doyle, when he came on, comes on at left centre back, you move Hyam inside. He was fizzing in some balls, and eventually you end up going on to win the penalty through Broadhead. But if you're not going to get it in those areas, how on earth are you ever going to create anything?
It felt like Hull were gettable at the back, and we just didn't take that risk. And again, I think we've said this in the last few weeks, that it's fair enough going to these away games sometimes and escaping with a point, but there comes a point, ironically, where if you do want to be a playoff team or an automatics team, you've got to just go away from home and really impose yourself on your opponents. I understand that, again, by the end of the night, you've lost to the team who was sick from the table, so maybe that's understandable, that's fine. And come the end of the campaign, Hull could be Premier League bound. You never know that. You might say, you know what, that's fair enough. We were quite close in that game. There was moments we could have drawn level. We could have got something at pivotal stages, but we weren't good enough. And yeah, I just wanted to see more risk taking, and we just didn't seem to do that. One player who kind of did take a few too many risks, though, Nath, is Nathan Broadhead. And I know at half time there was some questions about why is the boy from Bangor wearing gloves when it was quite a mild night in Hull. It doesn't bother me too much, I must say. First half, he was really poor, really frustrating. Grew into the game. I think part of that was Doyle's introduction, because he was getting the ball to feet in those areas. It was just a bit of a frustrating mismatch. And again, kind of just an indictment of what we've seen a lot this season, that there isn't really that much cohesiveness in our attack. It kind of set pieces, key for more goals, or a moment of magic from Windass or Broadhead that get you the goals. And I know you looked as well at the stats. Away from home this season, we just don't seem to create much.
No, on that front, and then I want to just address something on Nathan Broadhead. So in the away games that we haven't won, we had 1 shot on target versus Leicester, score through Nathan Broadhead. 3 shots on target versus Stoke, 0 against Ipswich, 2 against Portsmouth, 4 at Preston, that's a lot for us, and we had 1, which was the penalty at Hull. So we're not creating much. So if you don't take those chances, you're not going to score goals, are you? Well, if you look at those, 0 at Ipswich, we had never had a chance of scoring really. 1 at Hull, which was the penalty. That is a high quality chance, as they would put it down to. 2 at Portsmouth. I mean, you and I were talking recently about the Pompey game. It's hard to remember much of of that game of any real quality. Preston, you were there. I mean, that was good for us away from home. 4 shots on target. Lucky you. And then just the one at Leicester. Now, I'm not being a revisionist. Leicester, good point. Stoke, we weren't great that day. Ipswich, good point, really, all told. They'll be up there. Portsmouth, I guess we didn't play amazing, but it's a clean sheet away from home. Okay. Preston, decent-ish point, you would say. Probably lucky there in the end to get the point. And obviously we end up losing at Hull. And we could have got something out of the game, but ultimately I don't think we deserved it. On Nathan Broadhead, I'm also not too fussed about the gloves thing, but I do want to say that, and I'll caveat by saying that he's technically so good. The way he can control the ball, maneuver it in tight spaces, he's clearly on a level which is extremely high. But he doesn't work hard enough. Doesn't run hard enough. There was a moment where he did sprint at the defender. I think it was a Jai. And I'm remembering that because he doesn't do it very often. So that might seem harsh, but you have to hold better players to a higher standard, I think. I think there's each player, you know what their level is and what they're capable of. And I don't think out of possession, Nathan Broadhead works hard enough in a role where he needs to cover a lot of ground and do a lot. And if that gap between Kiefer and the midfield isn't working hard enough, that gap is too big. And I watched him at Hull, and like I say, he came on at Ipswich and was great and changed the game, and there have been other good Nathan Broadhead games, but too often I'm sat there asking him to work harder, to run harder, and I don't see it.
It's a tough one, isn't it? Because you get this quirk at clubs where you talk about sort of homegrown players under more scrutiny, but I mean, obviously Max is that for us. Broadhead's almost like the second in line for that as being a homegrown player or someone from that we bought to the club, ironically, for a huge amount of money, but he's come back to where his career began from North Wales. And yeah, you just maybe expect a bit more from him. Again, he doesn't dictate the transfer fee, but he's a guy who's done so well at this level before in a different system. And again, that is my concern with the attack is you've got Kiefer Moore, who is, like we say, the perfect Parky player, and then kind of this other gang of players who I still don't all quite think fit in. I still just don't think we know what our best shape is or what our best team is. And it still feels my slight concern. Some people might say it as a positive. My slight concern is you go into a game and you've got no idea who the two players behind Keith will be or who the midfielders will be. I still feel like there's so much debate. There's just not this clear and obvious solution for us. And you might say it depends on the opponents or the style of the match, but I'd like to think that we could all kind of agree on who our best midfield should be. And I just don't think we're any closer to finding out right now.
Yeah, I just want to caveat again just to say that it's nothing to do for me with the price tag on Broadhead's head or the fact he's homegrown. He's just extremely talented, and I know he can do more than what he is giving right now. Windass, it's tricky because we've done so well. So one game, like I said, I didn't come away thinking like, right, we need to rip this up and start again. But there are legitimate question marks where you say, right, at what point are we just going to go with Callum Doyle? Like, at what point are we going to go back to Lewis O'Brien? Because Dobson and Thomason are very similar. It's very industrious, that midfield. But would you describe either of those players as like playmakers, creators? I wouldn't. I don't know. What would you even describe those midfielders as a kind of archetype?
I'd sort of call Dobson a destroyer, someone who just breaks up play, very erratic. Like his passing's better than you'd maybe give him credit for, but he likes the high intensity, and he maybe isn't someone who wants to control the game. Thomason, again, good sort of box to box. They're both sort of engines, box to box engines, and they're really good with transition football, one end to the other, breaking up play. But you can't really dominate or dictate a match with them both in the midfield, I don't think. So I think.
And then what Sheaf? Sheaf in between them. So then you've got those two engines, and then. Yeah. If Sheaf was...
You got Sheaf, who I think can work. For me, the ideal dream of a midfield is you've got someone like Sheaf who's very, I don't want to say safe in a bad sense, but you know what you want to get. Keeps the ball neatly, tidy, and then you've got someone next to him who brings the energy of the legs and someone further forward. I always think of it in sort of a 4-3-3. That's kind of, or 4-2-3-1. And then you've got a more advanced playmaker who you can sort of have as a bit of a luxury there. In certain situations, you can put another engine in there if you don't need to break a team down. But yeah, right now, I just don't think that midfield is conjured up to kind of suit the way that we are playing, or to get us to that next stage we need to be at in the Championship. I think for right now and for this season, that's why I'm not too bothered. It's like, this is putting those foundations in stage. But when I look at how will Wrexham become clearly one of the best 6 teams in the Championship, I just think they need to evolve to become a team who is maybe a bit better with the ball. And I know people will say, well, our whole rise, we've not really done that. But I just think at Championship level, you need to not only prepare yourself for what we're doing now, but if you ever got to the Premier League, I just think you need to be a better footballing side ultimately. And I think this is part of the transition towards that. And ironically, something else that, this is maybe for another day, but I find it quite, not frustrating, this may be a bone to pick for no reason, but the fact that football right now, all you can talk about is set pieces, long throws. We were well ahead of our time with Ben Tozer, but I'm just itching out for us to have a long throw again with Kiefer in the middle, because I feel like we're missing out on some real good opportunities there. I feel like Kiefer would be such a weapon if we had a long throw expert again. I know that is maybe nitpicking something.
Well, I think, Rich, I think we'll get to a point soon, though, where squad building will require a long throw expert. The way the game is moving towards an increased reliance on set pieces, I think it'll almost become negligent to not have a player who can offer you that long throw or a long-ish throw. And actually, the Daily Telegraph did quite an interesting piece about, can anyone become a long throw expert? As in, can you just train it? And the journalist went and had some special training with a kind of throw-in coach, Sam Dean, really good reporter. But I thought that was quite interesting because, could you just train someone up in the squad to become a long throw expert? But yeah, that's maybe one for another day. I was just going to round out the whole section by just saying that I know what you're saying. You're laying foundations. There's pros and cons to every different sort of type of combination you can put out there. But you ultimately, I read the stats out. You have to create more chances. Kiefer had 2 great ones. One, ball comes back to him. He hits it first time on the spin. It's narrowly wide. If that's on target, it's in. And that's ifs, buts, maybes, but that's in. The keeper's not going to move. Panda's not going to move. And the penalty, keeper goes the right way. I thought it was right in the corner when I first watched it. It's not quite. It's not a terrible penalty, but it's not a great one either. But again, keeper dives the other way. That's in, and either of us go into a different game. But really, that was it. Chances wise, we had a couple of speculative. I think Sheaf had one that ballooned into the stand behind. I think Broadhead had one. All these off target. So I just think O'Brien, I know all those chances he missed. He gets into such good positions and he can pick a pass, and he has played at a higher level. So Saturday, I think it's absolutely imperative that Lewis O'Brien comes back in.
Well, Nath, we talk about the foundations being laid for Wrexham's eventual rise to the Premier League. And this week there was more big news that Wrexham have sold a minority stake to Apollo Sports Capital. That is part of Rob and Ryan's stake being sold to them. I know some sort of outlets headlined that as Rob and Ryan sell stake, is the writing on the wall, blah, blah, blah. But for me, the news was actually Apollo have invested in the club more so than that. And the latest investment will help finance the redevelopment of the Kairas, including the new cop stand that is due to open in early 2027. There was a statement as well from Rob and Ryan that said, from day one, we wanted to build a sustainable future for Wrexham. The dream has always been to take this club to the Premier League while staying true to the town. Growth like that takes world-class partners who share our vision and ambition, and Apollo absolutely does that. So Apollo's investment is similar to the deal that was struck with the Allen family in October of last year. Of course, the medical device company also bought a minority stake in the club. It means that right now the football club board is Humphrey, Ryan, Rob, Sean Harvey, and Colleen Allen. So I'm reading this from the Athletic piece right now. And if you read their piece as well from The Athletic, what they say is that the press release does not say how many shares or how much Apollo has paid for them, but it is believed that Apollo's stake is just under 10%, and it has brought in an overall valuation of £350 million. So Wrexham right now valued at £350 million. And yeah, that is remarkable, isn't it? It should also be noted that Apollo has a 35-year track record of making successful bets on growing businesses. In the last month alone, it has bought a 55% stake in Atletico Madrid, and there are similarities between that deal and the one that has been done for Wrexham as well, which are both at the heart of large local redevelopment projects. So, very exciting times, Nath. And again, we get so many questions, and a lot of maybe rival football fans always ask, yeah, but Rob and Ryan don't have the money to cope in the Premier League. It's not Rob and Ryan's money anymore. And long term, you can see the way this is going to go. It will be other people's money, and Rob and Ryan will just kind of be the face, the ambassadors of the football club. That's kind of been the story since the very start anyway. You know, their money, they acquired Wrexham for effectively nothing, put in the £2 million. And, you know, that's what you get with Rob and Ryan. It isn't the money. And it still is quite funny that every time we do anything, it is Ryan Reynolds spends £7 million on Nathan Broadhead or something. It's not their money. They've helped.
Ryan Reynolds is very busy, actually. He spends a lot of dough. He does everything. Ryan Reynolds does everything, apparently, at Wrexham. He buys everything. He loses tractors. He buys players. He sells stakes. He's a busy man, mate. It's impressive.
Again, it's for you. I mean, when you saw that news drop, you must have been thinking, it's exciting, isn't it? I mean, again, you get all the cynicism from the outside world and people questioning the motives and why it's happening. But Wrexham are one of the most talked about football clubs in the world. We see it in our industry every single day. People might hate on us and be sick of us, but there is such demand, and every football fan will have clicked on those stories and been interested by it. And Wrexham aren't going anywhere. If anything, we're only going up, aren't we? And this shows that we have now got that longevity, that even when we eventually probably do get to the Premier League now, it feels inevitable. It isn't just going to be this sort of 1 year experiment. The ambition is there for Wrexham just to become part of the furniture in the Premier League, which is something we've all got to get accustomed to, isn't it?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people that want to help Rob and Ryan get to the Premier League. I've felt that for a long time, that if they hit any stumbling block, which obviously they haven't done to this point, back to back, but if they were to hit any stumbling block, there would be a hedge fund, there would be some of their friends that would quite happily put the money up. Obviously, the Allens are incredibly wealthy. I think the only thing when any new stake comes in, I like transparency where possible. I know that's not always available in business transactions, but I like transparency. I like to know who is the face of this thing, right? So it's not just the Allen family. You can see Colleen, you can see Eric. They've been in the turf. They've been down to the women's games. You know, they are visible. You know who they are. And I hope that comes with Apollo. It's like if someone from Apollo, you would imagine, gets to sit on the football board or anything like that, you would like to, an interview or somebody to put a face to a name, right?
Mm.
But this is a kind of a fund that has 5 billion with a B. That's an M, a B. 5 billion set aside for sporting investment. Overall, this is a company, a project that manages 900 billion, B again with a B, in assets. So, welcome to the big leagues, Wrexham. Wrexham in the same sentence as Atletico Madrid. I should also say, just to pat myself on the back, I published an exclusive story that Wrexham are in talks with Manchester United about a match in Scandinavia this summer, which would be a departure from when they played in San Diego previously, and obviously Wrexham went to Australia last season. So, there's a reason Man United are looking at Wrexham. It's a huge commercial draw. You remember Rob and Ryan doing the little skit with Sir Alex Ferguson. There's a reason Apollo are coming to Wrexham and not any other championship club. You know what I mean? There are, 13 teams ahead of us in the championship? I'm sure all of them would like fresh investment, but it's delivering a stadium upgrade. It's delivering Premier League facilities. It's delivering a Premier League team with 2 iconic Hollywood stars. a new thing, nouveau, I would say, style to football ownership. So, yeah, when I saw it and I did a quick Google search of who the hell Apollo were, yeah, I mean, how can you not be excited?
Exactly. And again, it's a weird caveat to the whole episode, really. It's that the Hull defeat just sort of knocks you back a week on your path to the Premier League. It's going to happen, and that's why again I don't really mind when we lose games, because I know eventually we're going to get there, and I actually kind of want us to drag out the Championship as long as possible. We've had this absolute roller coaster ride to the Championship now. I'm quite happy to have a season of being mid table. I don't mind that whatsoever. So yeah, let us know what you think as well. Are you excited by Wrexham's inevitable rise to the Premier League? Do you mind, with the whole defeat? Like, what is your mood like at the moment in time? Because as Nave said, it's really interesting. We could be on this podcast today saying 10 games unbeaten, but even then we wouldn't have won many matches. What was it, 6 of the last 20? Was that the stat? It would have maybe been the same last night anyway. So it's a really interesting position we're in right now, because every single statistic can almost be warped either way to suit your agenda of whether you're very positive or very negative about what's happening at this moment in time. But for me, Wrexham have a lot of money. We're 14th in the Championship. We used to lose to North Ferriby. Now we're losing to Hull City. 4 points off the playoffs. It's not really a crisis, is it? Let's have a very happy Christmas. Back to back's been done. I'm sure we could add another one if we really have to as well. So, yeah, let's keep the faith. And yeah, Nath, not only are we going to, now as we get to the Premier League, FA Cup. The draw was made on Monday night. Wrexham finally get their wish of Premier League opposition. Nottingham Forest at home. And if we ever get to the Premier League under Phil Parkinson, Nottingham Forest are quite a similar stylistically sort of side to what I would expect us to play like.
Yeah, I mean, if we end up like Nottingham Forest, I'd be more than happy. Like, you'd have a £100 million midfielder in there. You'd sign players galore.
European adventure.
European adventure. That is a great draw for us. That is a really fun draw. Would I have loved it to have been at the City Ground? Of course, but it's at home. I think you're gonna have a chance. They're not gonna throw it. Sean Dyche does respect the FA Cup and does like it, but and they do seem to have about 100 players. Fundamentally, they aren't going to throw it in Europe, and the Premier League is the be-all and end-all. That is the one thing about when you get to the Premier League, staying in there takes priority over everything else. So I loathe the fact sometimes when I see a Brentford or a Brighton, not going full strength in the FA Cup, because I think, as you all know, I'm very big on trophies and cups over just staying in a division. I'd rather finish, just above relegation in the Championship, but have won the Carabao, for example, than finish 4th and not go up, in the Championship. So FA Cup, we're going to have a chance. I just hope that we put a team that's going to give us a chance against the Premier League team, because their second string, quote unquote, will still be, very, very talented. I've seen a lot of those players, and yeah, they're a very good team. But Swansea beat them in the Carabao, very late drama at the Swansea.com stadium. So every chance. I'm really excited. What about you? When the draw was made, we were both at Molineux. What did you think?
Yeah, I was just excited to finally have that sort of Premier League team. And, as much as you would love to see us against one of the sort of traditional top 6, or maybe even top 7, top 8 nowadays, you've also maybe got a chance against Forest, just because, like you said, they're already fighting on 2 fronts of their European campaign as well. They've had a lot of negativity this season. They've had the managerial change. They've got Marinakis. Dyche might not even be manager by the time we take charge. I mean, you never know with that club. And it is just this opportunity for Wrexham to real make a case. And whatever happens, there might only be sort of 15, 16, 17 league places between you when you play them. But it's still a chance to knock out Premier League opposition at the Kairos. And just to gauge right now, how close actually are we to the Premier League? If we did finally get there, how big a step up is it to play in what will maybe be a second string team, a few first teamers in there, have Nico Williams, back at the Kairos as well. I remember, I think we were in non-league, there was an interview and Humphrey was asked who his dream Wrexham signing was, and he said Nico Williams, who plays for Nottingham Forest, plays for the Welsh national team, because he's a local lad, someone who sort of got away at youth level because we didn't have the facilities, didn't have that sort of lure to us that we've now got. And him coming back to North Wales, his spiritual home, showing him what he's missing out on. Do you know what I mean?
Well,
I mean, I know we
I was
always...
about to say, are you encouraging Humphrey to sort of come and tap up Nico Williams? Is that what
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. I'd do that for Nico, absolutely. And I'm just excited to see it. I'm excited because it's what we've wanted for so long now. And the only slight negativity is, the story of Wrexham facing the Premier League team almost gets a bit less spectacular every single year because, non-league would have been amazing. League Two would have been great. League One is still an incredible achievement. But if it is sort of top half Championship team takes on bottom half Premier League team, it maybe doesn't have that same sort of magic to it that it would have done earlier in our journey. But I just think right now it's a real relevant comparison to see just how far off we are, how difficult we can make it. And again, to be massive hypocrites, I've been talking the whole podcast about how I feel we need to evolve football-wise, but Dyche's Forest are a team that have this similar sort of blueprint to what Wrexham do. Very quick transitions back to front, play with Chris Wood up top, bit more flair than us, I think, in the wide areas. But hey, this is, again, a real good opportunity for us and such an excitement because there'll be all eyes on Wrexham. Maybe by now, the TV date might have been announced. We were expecting sort of Thursday or Friday at 5 p.m, I think, weren't we, UK time? But it's just another great chance for us to show the world, to show the Premier League that, we're coming for you. And we will be there by hook or by crook very soon. And yeah, I can't wait.
Ryan Brett.
Rich, I was going to say before we finish for the break there that we're never happy, are we? If it's Forest owns Premier League, but it's not a big six, or it's not as we're never satisfied. That sort of sums us two up. But we are. Let's roll on to Saturdays. Forest is in a little bit. We've got to wait for that one to roll around in the new year. But first, it's Watford. Scrambled a draw at home to Sheffield Wednesday midweek. So they are probably on a little bit of a high, salvaging in the very final seconds. Wrexham on a bit of a downer, but I'm expecting both to make changes. So to get the view on Watford, I spoke to the guys from the Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast. And trust me, their podcast was great. I also had a lot of fun speaking to them for hours. Okay, fortunate enough, usually it's me and Rich and one other person. We've ditched Rich, and I've got two very, very funny. I did their podcast, so if you haven't heard that, go and listen to that Do Not Scratch Your Eyes podcast. It is one of the most unique pod appearances I've done. I will say that, mainly because of a predictor league, which if you watch it, you'll get it. You know what I mean. But Peter and Justin, thank you very much. I don't have any of the gimmicks that you guys have. Gimmicks is maybe unfair. I don't have any of the razzmatazz that your preview did. But welcome. Thanks for coming on to talk about Watford.
Frankly, if we had no razzmatazz or gimmicks, we would have no podcast. Speaking of which, I'm gonna in tribute of Wrexham, I'm gonna change. Look at that, the backline to red. There we go.
See what I mean? This is what I'm saying. This is the kind of showmanship that neither me nor Rich can bring. But there we go. Justin's got a green screen. You've got red lights. I've just got myself here in this very sort of beige, green screen. I'm going to have to firstly make an apology to everyone. You're going to have to accept it on behalf of the Watford community. But I actually predicted in our predictor at the beginning of the season, I said that Watford would go down. I had very, very, very low expectations for Watford, and that was ill-informed. That was not a clever prediction, because from what I can see, looking at the results, I've looked at some of the games. You're actually, you're a lot better than what I thought. Are you a lot better than what you thought you would be?
I think most fans are comfortable with being both ill-informed and depressingly worried about our thoughts. No, because we've been kind of told it time and time again. We were told it when we were up in the hallowed, area of the Premier League for that period, and we've been told it previously since. We've got an owner who keeps sacking managers, and everybody knows us for that. In the same way as everybody will do exactly what we did and just kind of ask about, Rob and Ryan a lot. For you guys, there's always a lot more behind the scenes, and we have been. Okay, we have had a change of manager. We needed to have a change of manager. To my belief, opinions are as always split. But no, I'm not surprised where we are, because since Graham Taylor and Elton John took over the club in the 70s, we've only spent 2 seasons outside of the top 2 divisions. literally, in 50 years. And when you bear in mind, before they came at that particular point, we'd only spent 4 years in the second tier of our entire life. So it changed it. We know where we are. We know what we are, and I'm quite comfortable with it.
I was going to specifically pick out the game that, of all the highlights, so sometimes I'll watch other game highlights if there's a big score. And I have to say, when I was kind of flicking through the results and Watford are losing 2-0 at Derby, and I thought, well, Derby are on a pretty good run, and maybe you just chalk that one up. And then I check it at full time, and Watford have won 3-2. So immediately I need to go and watch the highlights. What is it about this team then now? You've changed the manager. I would say that there aren't too many players in there that are major household names outside of real sort of championship aficionados.
Yeah.
What is it that when this team's doing well, about it makes it so good, do you think, Justin?
Well, I think, first of all, you've highlighted the fact that we're coming from behind a lot. That's something that we seem to do all the time. We always seem to concede the first goal or the first couple of goals. And then sometimes we come back and win. In fact, we did that yesterday against Norwich. So, we are capable of coming from behind. But I don't know what's special about us at the moment. I guess is literally not giving up, I suppose, is the thing. We've got like you say, no household names perhaps in the squad. We do have some good players. Most of them at the moment are injured. I don't know if Czech Verdadzi is going to be playing anytime soon. Have you heard anything about Czech, Peter?
Well, it's Czech Verdadzi. He hadn't played since April. He's played 2 games and now he's back out again.
Yeah, so he came on for his first start of the season yesterday and went off 60-odd minutes or something, injured. We got players like Nestori Irankunda, who's a very exciting player to watch. Again, he's been away back home for some family reasons in Australia. Rocco Vata, another one of our exciting players, is out for a long time with an injury. A lot of our sort of flair players, if you like, are injured. What's happened to Barr? He's injured, is he?
He's injured.
Yeah, so that's another one of our...
He's going to be out for 4 weeks.
Another one of our players.
Very fashionable. He heard that being injured was a good thing to do, like everybody else, and kind of went that. No,
Yeah.
he is a good player. A lot of our wing options are out. The thing about exactly what you say there with the Derby comeback, that was our only win away since February. So the fact that we're coming to the racecourse should make you all feel quite happy and warm inside. The fact that we are top of a table, we get told a lot now, where we have got the most points from losing positions. And you look at that and go, oh, that's good, isn't it? Until you realise it just means that you concede the first goal all the time. We've been ahead from the start of a goal, well, not from the start, but we've scored first in 3 games this season. We basically are like, we're like somebody who's kind of constantly surprised and only gets woken up when we get slapped round the face once. And then we sort of react and come back into it. Yes, we've got a lot of character. We finish games, and certainly the second half, stronger. We kind of seem to tend to, but a lot of that is because we need to, because if you fall behind and you don't react, you're simply going to get pumped. The other thing that we've seen that's less of a stat but more of an inclination is away against Coventry and against the other day where when we were at Birmingham, people turn around and opposition managers say, "Oh, you're the best team who's come," and they always say that. And then they ask us what we think, and we say, yeah, we're really good, except for attacking and defending. The bits in both boxes isn't what we're really so good at. We look smooth, we look great. If it all clicks, we will give anybody a really, really good game and maybe a few scares, including Coventry. But we played Coventry off the park, came off after 45 minutes, 3-0 down to 10 men, and they had 3 shots on goal, and we'd pummeled them. But that's the nature of Watford. We are an enigma wrapped up in a riddle and all of that.
Well, the other thing to that though is I don't think we played particularly well against Norwich yesterday, and yet we came from behind twice and then won the game. So we're a very strange team to watch.
One thing nobody's accusing Wrexham of doing is playing anyone off the park. In fact, whenever Wrexham get a result against anyone, that fan base says that we are the worst team they have ever seen, which seems a privilege in and of itself. If we have made history in front of your very eyes, apparently that is. Ipswich, we went there and we were the worst team Ipswich have ever seen. Preston, the worst team Preston have ever seen. So it's a bit of a trend. So I'm expecting some Watford fans to say that, Phil Parkinson football is the worst thing they've ever seen and Wrexham will probably win 2-1 or
fairness,
2-0 or something like that. Specifically,
if you spent your life watching Preston and being called the worst team they've ever seen, I mean, that's a real badge of honour. Anybody who's watched Deepdale for the last 20, 30 years.
Yes, yeah. I did I mean, I'm on this panel, this 3-man panel. I feel like I'm the most optimistic one about Watford, which just shows that I'm not the Watford fan, which is about which fits. Usually, the one who's not the fan is usually the most optimistic one. I wanted to specifically ask about. I mean, talking about both boxes and Wrexham have had their struggles, but particularly creating chances and getting more than one goal. Yeah, that's why defensively we're putting so much emphasis on the back five to if we don't concede a goal, you only need one to win the game type of thing.
Yep.
But the midfield, Imran Loser, good player from what I can see. Kayembe, a good player. I'm looking at this one here against in the Derby game specifically, but Cipriano is, I believe he was the one that we would know from Peterborough. Hector Cipriano, the previous, and he was really, really tidy player then. Midfield battle's obviously massively important in the game. We've got Ben Sheaf, you guys have Imran Loser, but how good is that area of the pitch and those specific players, do you think?
Imran Loser is far, far, far too good for the Championship. And that's the honest truth. And how long we'll keep him, we don't know. Full stop. He's an absolute class act. Cipriano has done all right, but he's into that kind of difficult second album territory at the moment, whereby he needs to do better with his ball retention, i.e. the passing needs to improve, frankly. He also needs to speed up his thought processes in terms of what he's doing, because he's made the jump and he's done well, but as I say, difficult second album. Kayembe, if you come into Watford and say Kayembe's a good player, one person will agree with you and one person will try and take your head off, depending on kind of what day it is. Against Derby, he came out with 2 goals, and one was a penalty and one was a header. He has the world's largest head in the Western Hemisphere. We've had it scientifically checked, and it's true. And he got his head on the end of it and steered it home. The most left-footed player you will ever see. He kind of pirouettes around like he's on a waltz rather than go anywhere near using his right. But boy, can he finish on occasions, and he can pass. But it's where we kind of slot him in, and he's a little bit of a kind of no fixed abode in the team. That's sort of where he's fallen. You can have good days with him, and then he can have kind of a little bit kind of worrying periods on occasions. But I think the midfield we can do all right, but the strength previously has been, if we're playing a 4-2-3-1, for example, we had those aforementioned kind of wingers / number 10s, if you will. That gave us an attacking foray and going forward. And the thing that when we don't have Hector Cipriano in, what he does incredibly well is take up good positions defensively, and he covers for Loser. And they dovetail really, really nicely, so that if Loser is going and getting forward, he'll just sit, and vice versa. If he's going in there, he'll get out of his way and let him do his thing. So I think Cipriano will do all right. He just needs to speed up his game a little bit and perhaps become a little bit stronger for the rough and tumble of the Championship.
Here's one for Justin then, because you guys have watched a lot more Championship football than we have. Big novelty to us still. We wasn't that long ago. We were watching National League football, and I was saying on your podcast about the Ebbsfleet game where they didn't warm up and they still pummeled us. Yeah. That's etched on the brain. So what I've observed though from the Championship games is, you need that one centre forward, that sort of like big centre forward you can hang your hat on. For us, that if you're going to be a fairly direct, team, for us it's Kiefer Moore. For yourselves, I had a go. I hoped you would say it on your podcast to tell me the pronunciation. Danish striker Luca Kjerumgaard. I think there's something close to that anyway.
Triumph.
You can look it up.
Absolute triumph.
Yeah, that's a triumph in my book. And I'm only watching highlights. I'm not watching full games. I'm not watching live. So I'll be excited to see what he looks like in person. He joined you in the summer. Did he come with big expectation? Lower, like what's been made of him so far, and how good do you think he can go on to be? Because he's only 22 as well.
I think he came with some expectation because he was replacing a player that was absolutely terrible as a centre forward in Vakun Bio, and we were on the verge of anything's got to be better than Vakun. I think that's kind of where we were with that. Has he? I mean, I don't know if he's living up to any potential, because I don't know if we knew he had any potential. I think he's been okay, but he's not one of. I'd be surprised if he's going to be a 20 goal a season striker. I don't think that's the case. I don't particularly know why it's not working for him. Somebody yesterday I was sat with was suggesting that he, we're probably not crossing the balls in enough for him or something. I don't really know, but I'm not frustrated with him. I don't think he's a bad player. I just think he's not hitting any sort of stride at the moment for me. Having said that, he took his 2 goals wonderfully yesterday. I thought he was fantastic. He does get into some good positions. He does, score these sort of little goals where he's kind of. I mean, that first goal yesterday with the headers, that was a peculiar goal. That wasn't it? It was sort of like 4 headers in a row or something. Was it?
Yeah,
Was it 4 headers in a row?
It's an odd one. We bought him in from OB Odense and he'd been playing in the 2nd division of the Danish league. And with due respect, and you say about watching the championship is just absolutely bonkers at the best of times. And the physicality of it and the strength of the teams and the fact that anybody can beat anybody on any given day, literally, is a little bit strange. So he's having to get conditioned and used to that. He's a 6'4" striker who's 22, and that makes him the oldest by 2 years of all of our strikers. We've got a 22, 20-year-old and a 19, and they're all learning to understand what's happening. So we're in that financial position whereby what we're buying is something that might be ready in 18 months' time, in terms of getting some championship experience and that line leader. And yes, we have coveted and looked at Kiefer Moore before and salivated and all of that sort of stuff. Do enjoy him while you have him, obviously. We haven't. We've got somebody that we hope to grow into a Kiefer Moore, and we'll see how they go. But he's one of these oddities who is 6'4". I wouldn't say he knows how to compete for a ball with a championship centre half at his back. Big, ugly centre half who's going to go in that physicality. Put him in the box and put the ball in, and he can head a ball. He can head a ball. But it's about the context, the circumstance, and what's happening around behind him. He's got good instincts in and around the box, and he can be in the right place at the right time. But he just needs to learn that back to goal, rough and tumble, that helps you then take you up the pitch. Very much, a lot of what Kiefer Moore has spent a very good career doing in the championship is going, no, we can all move 40 yards up because I can hold the ball maybe and do something, and I can get on the end of it. He can do one, not the other yet.
But before we wrap up on predictions, based on the we're chatting after 19 games, there is a midweek slate of games as well.
Yep.
How do you feel now in terms of maybe what Watford can actually achieve this season? Because at the beginning of the season, I had them in my bottom 3. If I was to redo it now, I wouldn't put them in there. But I also maybe wouldn't put Watford right in that playoff mix. I mean, do you think you're just destined for mid-table? Do you think you actually can, given how you performed against Coventry and Bristol City and Middlesbrough, and there's been a lot of teams that you've done well against, and they're usually above you, Preston and such. How do you think Watford can actually get on between now and maybe when we're coming to you guys, Vicarage Road, in early March?
There's nothing more Watfordy than doing well against good teams and badly against the teams where you think, we just need to turn up. Sorry, Justin, I was
just going to say, for me, we've got to keep our players fit, our best players fit, and that seems to be a bit of an issue at the moment. So a lot of, as I said earlier, a lot of our creative players, flair players, players that excite the fans, players that are going to make goal contributions are out at the moment. So if we keep our best players fit, and, I think now Javi does seem to be making a difference in terms of performances. And if we stop conceding so early in games and we start dominating games from the beginning, then there's no reason why we can't be looking further up. I'm not going to give you a position, but why we can't be looking further up the table than we are currently. Those for me are the factors that mean that will contribute to a more successful season perhaps than last time out. What about you, Peter?
Watford's modus operandi for about the last 4 years has been get to January and then basically stop playing.
Last 40 years.
Yeah, that's true. And therefore we flirt with the being in close proximity to the playoffs as we are at the moment, but we're about as close as half of the championship are to maybe getting in there. So we're optimistic when we're looking at and projecting out, and then we've just kind of ceased to take those or failed to take those opportunities, as I mentioned, against teams that we know we can go and get a result against, and we simply don't. So I would take a top 10 as a significant improvement. And I appreciate that there'll be Watford fans who'd be kind of basically sticking pins in a Pete doll at this moment for me saying that. I'm not bothered about the Premiership. We've been there. It's a horrible place to go. The football is, I mean, you basically play for about half an hour and then there's an international break, every time and all of that. I'm quite happy sitting in the Championship and building and looking what this team could do if it's not pulled apart for whatever reason over the next 18 months, because I think we've got a lot of young players. We're quite a young team. Tom Ince is probably our most senior player other than Musa Sissoko, who simply doesn't count on as basis as anything, as far as I'm concerned. And it'll be interesting watching their evolution and do well and watching Championship football, because you never know what you're going to get. Lovely thing.
Well, look, I've been very entertained on your podcast and on ours. As I said, I'm going to give it a second plug because I'm still thinking about this predictor league. I'm still thinking about it. Going up against a post box backgammon. You'll get it. You just go watch it. It'll be in the description. Please go watch that, because I will not do justice. But I'm just going to ask you for a simple prediction. There's no league. There's no post box. There's no double digit scores. How do you think it's going to go? Because like I say, just from someone who hasn't watched the games and is just looking at, these are the top teams, this is how you've done. You've held your own, at least in it, even if you conceded the first goal. So how do you think it could go against Wrexham?
Well, I'm not going to change my prediction from ours, which was 1-0 to Wrexham. But I know what Peter's going to predict, because Peter never predicts anything. He hosts the podcast and makes everybody else predict. And then when he's asked to predict, it's 1-1. So over to you, Peter.
I used to do that when I had banned 1-1 just to annoy you and Jeff, you and Carl. Sorry, I don't do it anymore. The form question for anybody watching is going to be how Watford done on the road, because at home we're something different. We won 6, we've drawn 3, we've only lost 1 at home. Away it's the reverse. We've only won 1, we've drawn 3, and we've lost 5. So I'm going to go. I'm going to be optimistic and go for 1-1. Yes, Justin, you were quite correct.
Oh, there you go. I'm glad I got that. Excellent.
So there you go, Rich. They're not very confident, to be honest, predicting a Wrexham win, and I think one of them predicted a draw as well. Are they trying to lure us into a false sense of security?
Feels like it, doesn't it? What I would say is, again, when we talk about this so many times, Wrexham's response to low points under Phil Parkinson, and he said after Hull, this is a chance now on Saturday to put the wrongs to rights. And you saw what Hull did. They were battered by Middlesbrough on the Friday night, came out all guns blazing, against us. They were much improved and played well and deserved their win by full time on Wednesday night. And I fully expect Wrexham to respond well this weekend. And not only that, I actually think this could be our most comprehensive victory of the season. I wouldn't be surprised if we come out and win 3-0 this weekend. I really wouldn't. Just because I think Parky's going to make changes that he's felt he can't really make in recent weeks, just for the optics of it, because you couldn't drop Dan Sky. You couldn't maybe even feel he probably felt he couldn't drop Thomas and Dobson because they had played well, and Preston felt like a point gain. So you can't criticise them for that. But I just think by Saturday, he might unleash what we would say is sort of our strongest lineup at the moment. I'd expect a Okonkwo in goal, the back three of Doyle, Hyam and Max. Wing-backs are still an issue. I think he'll go Longman, McLean. Midfield, Matty James back in there. Maybe still stick with Dobson. And then do you go, I don't know, either Windass head alongside O'Brien and Kiefer Moore up top?
Yeah, I'm basically with you on that team. The team I had was Okonkwo, Doyle, Hyam, Max, Longman, McLean, James, O'Brien, and Dobson, and I probably would go Windass off Kiefer Moore just to mix it up. Make a fair few changes and hope you get a reaction, because Windass should be chomping at the bit to get his chance back. Broadhead might come on and say, actually, no, that's my spot. There's obviously no alternative to Kiefer. McLean, he's very experienced. You have to try and trust that he will bounce back from a despite. He said on his Instagram, we were way below the levels that we are required to meet. And I think, let's not ever sort of challenge James McLean's mentality, because no one sort of works harder than him to get things right off the pitch, definitely, as well as on it. So I think we'll go with him. And yeah, Doyle back in. And I would say Matty James has got to come in. Sheaf did not play well enough against Hull. And there's only one player I think that's absolutely, immovable, and that's Kiefer. Everyone else, I think, is there to fight for the shirt to keep it.
Yeah. Also on that note, I think McLean made his 750th professional appearance against Hull.
Wow.
Not just against Hull. That's a lot of trips to the sort of MKM, but made 750th
That's a
professional
lot
appearance.
of times hearing Elvis Presley before a game, isn't it?
But that away end's so good, isn't it? He just absolutely loves it. So, like I said, I just think that result can really sort of kick us back into gear. And as we said at the very start of the podcast, one good week, that's all it takes. If we beat Watford, beat Swansea, we could be in the playoffs come Christmas. And to even be as close as we are right now, if you can go sort of to Christmas 4 points off or whatever, that's absolutely fine. We're in the mix then. We're in the picture, ready to reinvest more in January if required. And, like we said, a couple of good results and you're right up there. On the contrary, a couple of bad results and you get cut apart as well. So the challenge is there for Parky's boys, There's still so much to play for. Don't get too carried away. Don't get too dismissive. Look at how much that table has changed already. Ipswich were in crisis. Sheffield United were in crisis. Southampton have sacked a manager. They're flying. Coventry's lead's been cut in half already. Hull, Preston, they're in the playoffs. Charlton have gone from playoffs to right near the bottom again. So there's a lot to be left to say. And credit to Wrexham, they've stayed quite steady for the last few weeks and months. And not many teams have actually had that consistency either. So, hey, we're in a very good position. It's going to be absolutely fine. Don't worry about that. Thank you, as always, for joining us on Rob, Ryan, Red. A reminder, you can get in touch with us, robryanred@gmail.com, and on our website as well. Thank you to all of you for tuning in, whatever platform you're on. We really do appreciate it. Thank you very much to Red 10 People Development for their continued support, and to Wrexham-based band Hypnotic for the music that stings you hear in the show. Back the boys, make some noise. We'll see you again next time.
The Wrexham AFC podcast with Nathan Salt and Rich Bay.